So, how do you handle difficult relationships? Well, our first response might be to avoid them altogether, but unless you leave this earth, that's not realistic. We all have difficult relationships in our life. And I love what Bob Goff, author and speaker, said about this. He said, loving people doesn't just mean enduring difficult relationships, it means growing in those relationships. So, how do you do that? Well, he suggests it's a combination of guarding our hearts while at the same time giving our hearts. It's an honest tension that there's no perfect way, but there is a way if we're willing to grow. So, how do you guard your heart? Well, I think Galatians 6, verse 5 says it well. For we are each responsible for our own conduct. Pretty straight up, right? Guarding your heart means checking or taking responsibility for your own behavior and attitude first, rather than focusing on the other person's behavior. Notice what's not being said in this verse, that we're to take responsibility for the other person's conduct. I think too often as Christians, we think it's our duty to help everyone. Well, earlier on in verse 2, it tells us how to help. It says, share each other's burdens, and in this way obey the law of Christ. Well, the key word here is share. Know when to step in and to know when to step back. The word for burden here is actually an overburden. So the idea is to come alongside difficult people and help them with their burdens and their struggles when they are not able to carry them on their own. See, this is a beautiful tension of any relationship that can lead to growth. Take responsibility for your own actions and come alongside others to love and help them when they're willing to do their part. If that other person isn't willing to also grow in the relationship and work through things with you, then there's probably a sign that you need to give that relationship some space. You know, loving difficult people, it's a combination of guarding and giving of yourself. And one final note, are you doing your part in relationships? Are you willing to grow, or are you confident you're always right? Well, that's a sign that you are probably the difficult person in the relationship, and you've got some work to do. So before we jump to the conclusion that it's always the other person, check your heart first, take responsibility for your actions, and then lean into the relationship and extend love and care where it's most helpful. Most importantly, pray for those difficult relationships. It may surprise you what God does with them, and that's courageous living.